Hello, everyone, and welcome to Classical Revolution here on IDAGIO. My name is Rachel Fenlon, and this is my weekly series in which I chat with guests in the classical music world about what inspires them, about how to push boundaries in classical music, and what risk-taking feels like. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by composer Márton Illés. Márton is one of the influential composers in the music world today. His works have been performed at the Berlin Concert House, the Munich Biennale, Tokyo Summer Festival, and the Rome Auditorium, to name a few. He's written for the Ensemble Modern, Ensemble Intercontemporain, for soloists such as Patrizia Kopanchaya, the Munich Chamber Orchestra. He's a prize winner of several prestigious prizes, including the Siemens Prize, the Hindemith Prize, and the Schott Music Prize. He's done several fellowships, including the prestigious Villa Massimo, and it's a real pleasure to have him on the show today. Welcome, Márton. Hi.
Hello, Rachel. Thank you for the invitation.
Thanks for being here. I can't quite see you, so I'm just going to do like that. Okay. Márton, I'd love to begin by just asking you what your earliest introductions to music were, and whether there are any particular musical memories which jump out to you.
Well, the first I really have to mention is, as in my early childhood, the first time when I met the piano. My grandparents had a house, and in one of the rooms there was a tiled stove, like what you can see in the background, exactly the same color, and the grand piano where when I was 4 already, I began to actually tinkle. I wouldn't say I was piano playing. And I realized that actually my parents realized that they can't pull me away from this instrument. I went there every day, and we're playing and enjoying it hours long. Like the average child tries it once and then goes away and plays football. That's exactly not what I did. I did the opposite. And I remember the experience. I remember how I enjoyed these sounds, which didn't have to do exactly with music. They were not musical sounds. They were like noises and kind of colored music. How I called it this time, and it was a really very important experience to me, and also very important experience now when I think back, because I'm sure I'm a genuine composer, atonal composer who was from the beginning was more interested in atonal music, more interested in sounds and a free musical landscape than the traditional musical world.
Interesting. And at what point did you really decide to become a composer? I mean, was that choice, did that happen quite clearly for you, that moment?
Well, it was quite clear for me how enthusiastic am I for the music, but then what usually happens, the parents say, go and learn the piano, how everybody does. So they sent me in a music school, in a very special Kodai school in Hungary. It's a very special system. I can tell you about this after. And then I realized that I have to do things which I don't really like. And this is not the kind of piano playing I'm got used to from the living room of my grandparents. But then, of course, I did this way. I went through all my studies, and I became a classical pianist. But always the composing always came back. So this wish to create new music, create my own music, was always parallelly accompanying my way.
Márton, I'm just going to stop you for a moment, because I think that the screen is pinned on me. So I'm just going to write our tech. I'm sorry to interrupt you here.
I see you perfectly.
Yes, but I think the screen is actually set on me. Just one moment. Sorry. Very sorry. It's just that I actually can't see you. So maybe that's better. Yes, that's perfect. Now I can see you. Okay. Hi. Okay, that's good. I was only seeing my face. So, and maybe you could talk a little bit about what the perception of contemporary music was like and still is like in Hungary, and how that's different from how it is in Germany, and what that experience also was when you came to Germany to study.
Well, first of all, I went to Switzerland. I began my studies, my piano studies in Switzerland, in Basel, in Zurich, and in Basel afterwards. And parallelly, I had my studies, my composition studies with Detlef Müller-Siemens, who's a German composer, who was actually a pupil of Ligeti. So he was the favorite pupil of Ligeti. And it was a really funny situation because then he had a Hungarian pupil and we had a very good relationship. Yes, the contemporary music in Hungary was, of course, under the socialist dictatorship. It had a very different role. It was not really allowed to. I mean, everything was allowed, but it was not really fashionable to listen to Western contemporary music. So we had Bartók. We had this tradition, enormous tradition of Bartók, and Kurtág was there, and of course Ligeti. But we did not get so much from the from Stockhausen and from the new German school. And but actually it came later, because when I really started to compose, when I decided to be a composer, I was already 25. I was much earlier in Switzerland. I went to Switzerland when I was 18. So actually I was too young to judge about the Hungarian music situation when I was young, before 18. And then I went to Germany, and I'm actually a kind of, I'm a Hungarian composer with Hungarian roots, but I was taught in Germany and in Switzerland. So I feel like a mixture, like a hybrid version, European hybrid contemporary composer with all this German musical culture in my background. But I always kept my Hungarian roots, and Hungarian Volksmusik. Folk music was always very important to me, and also the Hungarian language is so dominant that it shapes my musical language even now for so many years.
What are, like, how would the Hungarian language shape your musical language, for example? What's an example of that?
Hungarian language is a very rhythmical language. Every word has a rhythmical structure, a very clear rhythmical structure. You can notate it always with rhythms, musical rhythms, and it's really dominant. So you put the accents on always the beginning of the words. So it's a language which is always on the earth. It's a very stable language.
Interesting. Do you have you written songs in Hungarian? I mean,
yes, at the beginning, yes, but then I realized that it's too concrete. It's so dominant. The rhythm, the inherent rhythm of the Hungarian language is so dominant, so that I have to get out of it. Actually, in the first 10 years of composing, the folk music was very important to me. You can detect the rhythm and the way how it's constructed. But after 10 years, I decided to leave this path and just open myself much more. Maybe it was not a deliberate decision, but I really thought that I have to get out, because the tradition is too strong. It binds my creativity and
there's not
exactly.
Something kind of discovering your work, which has been great the last few days. You're a fantastic composer, and something you talk about is this idea of music as sounding energy. And I love this idea, because it directly makes you think that music doesn't always have to be kind of explained or justified if it's a sounding energy. And I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about the principles of this idea.
Yes, I think composing begins always when you accumulate some musical ideas in your imagination, and after that you begin to think about it, where those ideas come from and what those ideas are related to. And I noticed always more and more that my music, all my musical ideas are very strongly connected to a very primordial physicality, and all those things I compose are more kind of gestures and reflexes that remind me all to those physical reflexes I found in my own body. So everything is on a kind of physical level. And I began to analyze all these gestures and all these motions and the finest steerings, which, you know, happens. Everything is possible. So one single gesture with your arm is a gesture, and then I realized that everything what we feel and what we think is mirrored on a certain physical level. So actually, all motions are psychophysical reflexes that are connected to our thoughts and to our psyche. Mm-hmm. And then I realized that those things which happen, all these reflexes are on a physical level, in a basic physical level, and are kind of they're binary processes. So like tension and relaxation processes are quite complex binary processes, and I realized that I can reproduce actually all these physical gestures on a very tangible physical level. So I was trying to build up all my music in a very conscious way, and in a way I was analyzing all these physical gestures and building up musically, because I really think that these ideas these physical things has a very high recognition factor. So everybody can recognize these gestures in himself. And yeah, so I was just building up those things musically, because I really think that they are conveyed in a more precise, much more precise way musically than through verbal expression, for example. Right.
Can you give, what's an example of that tangibly being embodied within music? This tension and release, or this binary core.
Mm-hmm. But you asking how can you detect this in your body? Is that your question?
No, rather how is this sounded in music? What is there an example of how you might create this within a musical phrase? Or
well, actually, I think that every single melody, the simplest melody, has an energetical bow, which is very well constructed. And we know it from Bach and Ernst Kurt, who was a musicologist, a Swiss musicologist, who was analyzing Bach melodies on the energetical level. And we know that the well-constructed melody has a perfect arch, perfect overarching structure, which is built up very well. It has a process which develops, builds up, and then it has a release, a relaxation process. And all these melodies are very well built in energies. But you can think about other things which happen in our body, like spasms, all those pains, and this is our energetic process. This is everything tension, which is in your body when you have a pain, when you feel a pain. And this is something you can reproduce by sounds, by noises, well-built noises. And I think that people can recognize it much more directly, much more precisely than if you speak about it, for example.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. I mean, that's the strength of music. I mean, when you talk about everything being also the associations happening in the body, it also makes me think about like things happening on a vibrational level. Would that also be fair to put into the?
What do you mean with the vibration?
I mean that there's a sort of a response to energy that's happening when you're witnessing it or experiencing it, like in the concert hall, when you're, you know, in a Mahler 8 or something, and there's something happening also on a vibrational level.
Yes, absolutely, because the sound is physical energy, which is conveyed by the musicians, and we think that's something. It's a basic level which which everybody can understand, which every music has. So that's why it's so important to have concerts and just go to the concert hall again and experience the music there, because at this kind of physical energy we are not able to percept through internet or multimedia channels. I mean, it is exactly this physical experience which we need through music.
Yeah, and which we're missing.
We're missing too much. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. There's another another quote of yours that I want to read actually out loud, and it really stuck with me. And it's talking about the idea of space within music, and it's perhaps kind of a continuation of what we're talking about. So I'm just going to read this quote. So you see, in the contemporary art of music, space is always neglected. I, however, believe that both exist in both arts. I think a lot in spatial dimension, so what in the music appears as time is perceived spatially, graphically. This is a translation from the German, but I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about what space is within your music and how flexible that is. How much are you aware of that and changing that within your work?
Well, you can use the word space in different senses in music, because when you compose, you create a form, a musical form, and inside this form you have a space, which is in the dimension of the time. I mean, the time would be one space, and the other sense of this is the real space, which you experience in a concert hall.
Yeah.
Yes, well, I think if you use the space in the sense of the form, building a form, then it's important, because you have to build up a work energetically. So the energetic bow should be really functioning, and then you have to be very careful about how much space, how much I would say space you use with a few informations, and how a space works when you fill it with a lot of information. So I think this is the task of the composer, to decide how many information put in a certain space, in a certain section of the work, so that the energetic bow is functioning.
Okay.
So you play actually with energies. This is the most important thing.
Right. And again, kind of going back to that idea of tension and release being that bow.
Exactly, because you have to accumulate a certain amount of energy when you compose a piece, which energy goes just to the public. The public receives this energy, but if this energy is not well balanced, then is in some sections too much or too few. So you have to be very careful with that. The other thing is the real space. How you operate with the real space. I experienced actually now I had to compose a piece for the Cologne Philharmonie, which is a fantastic place for an orchestra, for music. You can hear everything everywhere.
Beautiful hall.
Yeah, and so it was not possible to use the whole orchestra because of due to the restrictions, the epidemic restrictions. So they asked me if I can cope with this whole, if I could put some of the instruments behind, some of the instruments on the stage or in the loge, and maybe backstage, or however I wish, if I can use this space. And I think it was a great possibility to me. That was the first time I was kind of forced to discover this space the first time in my life. Maybe I have never done it without this possibility, without these restrictions. And then I really found that it's one of the most important thing you have to think about as a composer, because you have sounds which come from far away behind. They needed a certain time to come to the ears of the audience. You hear the music from different places and the whole differently. You have some musicians backstage who play maybe very loud, but they sound quite soft when you sit inside the hall. So there's all perspectives or possibilities you can play with.
Yeah.
And I think it's even more fascinating than I thought. I'm actually quite grateful to this terrible situation now, because I found something.
It's almost as if the space becomes like another, not instrument, but it's like that third thing in the room. That in a way, it becomes alive again because you're questioning it.
Yes. And maybe it's sad to say this, but we didn't have public in this hall now. So
Okay.
The hall was alone, completely alone. So the whole sounds alone. Maybe it's a little bit sad, but it still have possibilities.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we have a video recording where you can experience this also.
Okay.
Public.
I mean, it's certainly something to explore more, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the lonely space can be also exciting.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, also, that's something anyway I wanted to ask you, but is there ever a visual element for you in music, in your music? Like actual, do you ever think about the visualization of certain performances? Or
well, you asking me if I'm writing something which goes on stage, the direction of the stage?
Yeah, or do you think certain performances having to be visual as well?
Yes, a performance is always visual as well. So
Yes.
we have to cope with this. I mean, we are musicians. Musicians sit on the stage. They look, they dress, they act, they move. And actually, we don't think enough about this. But now I think we have much more possibilities. I mean, we need to think about this because we just have to make videos about our productions. We are no concerts. We have to film those people, and this is the first time when musicians have to think about what to do if there's no audition and they don't applaud. So if they stand up, if they stay there, and how it works if these people clap themselves and applaud themselves, which is a strange thing, but some people do it. Some musicians do it.
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, that it happens several times.
Okay. Yeah, because this is a very strange feeling afterwards.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Something I'd love to talk to you about and ask you about is your process. So, I mean, do you have kind of daily process with composing? Is it a very like regular, organized thing, or is it quite free? Yeah.
Yes, I have a very strict composing schedule. Actually, I sit down every day, every morning, very early. I try to get up very early, and do as much as I can. Not every day is successful, but this regularity is very important to me. Just to stand up every morning and sit down. On the afternoons, as Richard Strauss did, I do mostly instrumentation works or just writing into the computer. But it's very, it's very important to me to be sober and completely awake, full and clear in the head, because this is the only way to be creative to me. So I'm not the composer who's evening drinking a half bottle of wine and has the best ideas. It doesn't work with me. No.
Not like, yeah. And I mean, in terms of the actual process of a new piece or a new commission, do you have a similar beginning point and a similar kind of building process of a piece? Yeah, that would.
Yeah, well, mostly I collect material. I don't think it's impossible to me to begin to compose a piece when I fix the big form, the large the draft of the form, and then I put the little contents inside. I think it's very important to me just to be able to begin a composition when I have accumulated a great amount of musical ideas, which I have in certain medias. I have a so-called audio drafts. Because I realize it's not enough to me to write down the music, and maybe I make some drawings. Drawings help me a lot, but these are mostly not notes I write down first. I have a Zoom equipment, and I record my singing, my speaking, I explain myself, which tempo I want. Singing is very important because singing fixes every parameter immediately. So if I just write down this kind of rhythms, I need this kind of sounds, this kind of color. When I look at it 2 days later, I understand. I know the color. Yes, this color, this rhythm, but I can't remember exactly the content. Because I think that's what you compose is a little bit more than only on these parameters. This is some very strong background feeling which you connect to all these ideas, and yeah, this works well with the audio drafts. And yeah, and then after having a file folders full of this audio drafts, I begin building the form, begin putting them together and make a very strong, a very tough selection, which I use and which I don't use. Those things. This is actually the most important, the selection process, the filtering.
Yeah.
Because you have so many ideas. This could be, but then your taste and your creative self-control begins to work, and I think this is one of the most important thing. And writing good works.
Do you feel like you're always kind of challenging those decisions, or challenging your, I guess I would say, like, comfort zone or your process? Is there any, like, when do you feel you have to break something within yourself, like a certain way that you're used to, comfortable with, or?
Yeah. So it's probably you're speaking about the routine, how much I'm in this comfort zone, using always the same things that really work. Yeah, no, I really like risk. I like risky things as well. So it's important to take a risk, because otherwise you are stuck in the whole in the same realm of your private ideas. But on the other hand, I think the control is also very important because you have to be aware of that things you compose are can be played at the end.
Yeah, right.
So you have to make also experiments with musicians and go to musicians and show them. I mean, look, I have here some risky things. How do you do that? How do you realize that? But I think that the thoughts have to be really, really free, and you have to just make new steps to new directions and new paths, and go on and reflect yourself and be also very self-critical about all the things you did before, and have to react on yourself and your good and bad experiences with your music.
I mean, it makes me think also, so you're a great pianist as well, and you've even performed your own piano concerto in Cologne. And what's the experience like writing for yourself to premiere? And yeah, I'm curious about that.
It's a dangerous thing because you like writing things which you can play by yourself, which is not always true, because I have one piano piece, a 10 minutes piano piece, which I've never played, which is unplayable, almost unplayable. I mean, there are some very good pianists who can do this, but I'm too anxious to go on stage with that piece. And one thing I realized when I am on stage and playing my own music, I'm in a different modus. I think differently. So I can't think like a composer. I think as an interpreter. So I read the notes, I read the rhythms, and try to do that precisely. But this control, this control is not there. This compositional control. So I never or seldomly say, "Oh, look, it doesn't sound well. I have to change this passage. I have to," because I feel it's not together with the orchestra or something. It's really a difficult thing in this role as an interpreter to keep the control of the composer. So I think there are two different states of mind, two different tasks, and actually that's why I don't really like playing my own pieces.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Okay, because I guess I would wonder if there was the impulse to ever also, either change things or improvise. But I guess for you, you really separate those two roles.
Yeah, I have to. I think that I'm two different person. Yes, and yes, but there are people who just like changing things. Like Stravinsky changed always things because he realized that when he conducted it didn't work and just reacted. But for me, when I play and practice my piece, the piece is finished because it's just compact, and I don't really think I could just change it anymore. It's closed.
Yeah. I mean, I write poetry, and sometimes this happens where I just say, okay, I finished the poem and I can't touch it again, because if I touch it again, and I'm a singer, so sometimes I'm singing it, and if I touched it again, then it's a never-ending rabbit hole of
it's very
and then
dangerous.
the essence of the thing, the whole essence is gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, the other thing is, of course, when you are on stage and play together with musicians, you don't hear yourself from behind. So this is actually, you compose for ears that are distant from, much more distant from the interpreters.
Yes.
And actually, this is a thing which I realized that conductors have this problem sometimes. They really hear the music only just almost inside the orchestra, so they have a complete different impression about how the music sounds. than the public.
I mean, that's why in rehearsal sometimes you see the, the assistant take or the orchestra just play and the conductor walk around to the band. But exactly.
Yeah, sometimes it happens. I like this very much, but not always. Not always. Very often I had discussions with conductors and said, I don't want this piece played in this hall. Why? Because this hall absorbs energy, and we don't get this energy out of the stage. And I said, well, why? It's great. It's fantastic. It's strong. Yes, it is strong if you are standing on the stage, but it's not enough if you're in the last row sitting. So it's an interesting, and as a composer playing, it's the same situation.
Yeah.
So you are completely in your work, and you have not the possibility to control other musicians as well as you should.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, something I also wanted to ask you about is what it's like to write for an ensemble like the orchestra, which in many ways is a very kind of traditional, it hasn't evolved as much as, say, and a small ensemble or a large ensemble where you can have tons of different variations of instruments. What do you feel like the challenges are writing an orchestral piece for a very traditional kind of Besetzung? What's the English word for that? Instrumentation, combination. Yeah, I'm just, that's something I think about a lot because it's always kind of in our face, right? Because you have, your symphony playing Beethoven 7, but they want something at the beginning of the program that's contemporary. And so you're kind of stuck writing for a very specific, combination of instruments. So I just wanted to ask you a little bit about that, about the sort of writing.
You have to be very creative. First, when they ask me for a special Besetzung, I also use this German word. I think no real English word for that.
I think so.
I need time. I need like 2 weeks time, and I say I have to think about it because maybe it doesn't work. That's a very important question because sometimes I really think those instruments are not invented for our music. So those instruments are invented for classical music, for a major minor tonality, and sometimes I think I'm just searching things on those instruments which are not invented for, and it's a dilemma sometimes. And I'm asking myself, why do I have to do that? Just because the society, the market, it consists of traditional instruments and orchestras. They want new pieces, but of course you can be also very radical and say, okay, I want you now just to put your violins on the chair and take 2 coins and coins each other and yeah, that's actually what I want. Or you take the instruments, you take a mouthpiece instead of the instrument, and you play only with the mouthpiece or you hit your violin with a pencil, which sounds fantastic, and you go in this direction. But of course, it's not the aim so these instruments were not invented for that, and yeah, I have to think. It's a real dilemma.
Yeah, I can imagine that somehow it feels the sort of genre inside of classical music that is allowed to evolve the slowest. It's quite slow. Even opera, you can get very, you can have eight players in the orchestra and lots of electronics, and you can, but with the orchestra, it's just something I was thinking about a lot lately. And especially if you didn't want to be radical with it, if you just really, also had to embrace it somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's quite okay if someone doesn't want to be radical with it. I think the problem begins when composers are afraid to scare the public with radical things. and they just compose. They go back some steps back and try to write music which public likes, or what concert organizers like, or whatever whoever likes.
Yeah.
The problem begins here, because there are a lot of composers who are very traditional, but they're deliberately traditional, and they really believe in being traditional, and they can compose things which are really fascinating. So the question is what you want, if and how much you believe in this, what you want, and how strong it is what you do, how strong it is the result.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably not just for composers. I think also for performers, we're thinking about that as well, because you can absolutely go in the direction to make everyone happy in a recital, or really challenge people.
Yeah, yes, but I really think that we also have to have the task to demand the public, to be demanding, and not underestimate the public, because this is what I see a little bit in our musical scene now, that very many organizers are afraid of scaring the public, and they want more public to come. They want more income. They want more success, and they forget that the public wants to be guided and demanded in a way, and this is important to be brave enough for this, because they want to be developed. It's like, children who you have to feed children. The children don't ask, they eat what they like, but you can't tell them that even if chocolate tastes well, it's not that what is good for your body. I mean, you believe me, if you eat a good spinach, it can also taste well, and it will be very good, and you will be happy, and that's what I think you need to do with the public, to guide them a little bit, to show them, look, it's not easily understandable what we do, but you should believe that it's very valuable what we do, and you have to maybe listen to it twice or 3 times, and you will get it.
Yeah, yeah. It's also, I mean, that makes me think first about that it's about trusting our public and trusting people. And also that it's about listening to it differently too. I mean, that's a whole other topic. I mean, how to really listen and engage with music is something that I think we should probably spend more time focusing on it.
Yes, I think so. I think so.
Well, it's been such a pleasure having you here, and thank you so much for taking the time and this lovely chat, Márton.
Yeah. Thank you, Rachel. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you. And wishing you all the best, and stay healthy, and hopefully meet in person one day.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It was nice to meet you here.